History has an uncanny way of repeating itself in many contexts for both individuals and groups. And so when the House of Representatives summoned President Muhammadu Buhari to explain the strategies he has in place to check the spiraling insecurity following the beheading of 67 farmers in Zabamari, Borno State, 9 years earlier, there was a similar event where the House of Reps from the 7th Assembly had summoned former President Goodluck Jonathan to explain steps being taken to tackle the incessant bombing of churches and other killings, particularly in Kaduna and Damaturu, Yobe State. Events like this test the resolve and creativity of elected leaders, but more importantly, what are the outcomes when it tests the all-time principle of checks and balances required for a healthy working relationship among the arms of government? Welcome to Fireworks on TVC News. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. In today's edition, my guest is the Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs. He's also the Senate spokesman in the person of Dr. Ajibola Basiru. It's nice to have you on Fireworks again after about 2 years.
Yeah, in different capacities.
In different capacities. The last time we were together, you were the Attorney General of Osun State. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Are in order. All right, so of course, from the start of the program, I'm sure you know where we're headed, which is why I'd like to start by asking, why did the Senate rather, differ with the House of Representatives on the invitation extended to President Buhari to explain the handling of the security situation in the country?
I think that just underscored the bicameral nature of Parliament. You know that you have the House of Representatives and you also have the Senate. So, as it were, when it is a matter that requires concurrence in terms of legislative making, that's why when any legislation is made at the House, it will be sent to Senate for concurrence. When it is vice versa, it will be sent to the House of Rep. And when there are two versions of a bill, there will be a conference committee to resolve. I think, but in terms of resolution, depending on how the resolution, the motion emerge, and how the majority in each of the chamber perceive the issues involved, they may pass a resolution. But you will know that resolutions, whereas they have persuasive force, they are not in the manner of a law making. Why it be a law that was being made, they will have gotten across to the Senate for possible concurrence. But in that instance, I think the resolution of the Senate was to the effect that the President should relieve the service chiefs of their responsibility, and of course to also look at the report of the Senate Committee on Security. But on the contrary, I think the House of Rep, in their own wisdom and considering the fact at their disposal, decided to summon the President. And when issues were raised, of course, I can only speak about... But
it's a matter of urgent public importance. Is the Senate less concerned about the rising insecurity situation in the country?
We are not less concerned. That's why we pass our own resolution. The question of being concerned and the way by which you address your concern is a matter of how you perceive it. There is no resolution at the floor of the Senate. We cannot jump and just say we adopt resolution when such has not been debated at our floor. So the question of urgent national importance had been raised at the Senate. We have come up with our own resolution. And of course, there could be debate as to whether, as a matter of law and constitution, the President can even be summoned in view of the provision of Section 318 on immunity of the President. Can a President be summoned? Because when we talk of summon and invitation in law, they have different.
But even on that,
characters.
The President is bound not to respond to the invitation, but it could also choose to respond to the invitation.
As the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, would you go? I'm just asking you, can you go to on national television to discuss strategy for insurgency? I'm just asking. So it's a question of preference. If you will decide to do so, the other person may not decide. So it's a question of
when the President wants to present the appropriation bill, the President addresses the National Assembly.
Bukola, budget is different from
but insecurity is
like you.
Is the issue of insecurity less important than appropriation bill?
It's sensitive and serious intelligence is involved. So you will say that these are the kind of arms I've procured. These are the way I want to develop. Security is a sensitive matter. Personally,
but wouldn't the president's handlers, I'm sure, would have sifted between what could be disseminated and what could not be disseminated?
Would you be able to know the kind of questions that will emanate on issue of security? Unless you are saying it should come and address a number of questions are going to be written. If our president of Nigeria will not come and discuss issue of security to the whole army panel, at the best, you call the leadership. Senate, and they will have to swear to the oath of secrecy to the security is a sensitive matter, it's not political matter. So the question is, you will be discussing strategy, tactics, development, and issue of a personal issue. I don't think personally it's not a question of sentiment whether the issue of security is sensitive, whether it is not of whether it's important, but as a matter of the it has never even happened anywhere in the world where chief state of government come forward to discuss issue of strategy or security at anywhere. If you have any example,
but even the president's handlers had decided that he should address a joint
they are not the president. Section 5 of the Constitution.
The Assembly.
Section 5 of the Constitution. First executive power in the president.
Perhaps if you had shown solidarity.
Solidarity is not
with the House of Representatives. The president would have easily
we are not fighting National Assembly. The first chairman of the National Assembly is the Speaker of the House of Rep. We have cordial relationship, but you have to act according to the decision of your majority. The issue of inviting the president or someone, as the case may be, never arose at the Senate. So the question of solidarity does not arise. We don't have any problem with the House of Rep.
If it didn't arise, the Senate did not have to dissociate itself from the position of the House. Was the Senate sheltering the president?
What do you mean by associating?
Is this Senate under the Ninth Assembly sheltering the president?
You can play the tape. I was asked publicly, and I said the Senate does not have such a resolution. We cannot adopt a resolution that's not before us. So if the resolution is before us, we could have said whether it was rejected, it was not accepted. We cannot accept a resolution. Let's shielding the president. How do we shield the president? The president had made a request to us that we have rejected in the past. There were nominations that have been made by the president that were not accepted. There were requests that have been brought before the Senate that we don't accept. So it's not a question of solidarity. It's a question of perception and whether that was a live issue before the Senate. It was not a live issue. It was not an issue for us.
But even the Senate had, expressed dissatisfaction with the handling of the security situation under the watch of the former service chiefs, and the Senate had in fact called on the presidency to sack the service chiefs. So are you satisfied with the continued situation of things even under the appointment of the new service chiefs?
Of course, security.
How can the executive be made more accountable to produce results in terms of securing the country?
There are so many. Security is the first purpose of any government all over the world. There's no country in the world, and I repeat, no country in the world that's not facing one form of security challenges or other. In fact, if there will not be any security challenge, there's no basis for any government at all to exist in the world. The basis of government, as you know today, either you use the Obesian army theory of a state, or you use the John Locke army theory, or even Marxist army theory of state, is to the effect that the state exists in order to secure and provide for welfare, as the case may be.
Is that a way of excusing
what even goes to security goes
the intensity of the insecurity situation in the country?
It goes more beyond even military. Our police institution needs serious reform, and that's why, as a senator, I've sponsored a bill on setting up state police structure. Then I think another Senator Eko Ekoremadu, has also brought a bill in that regard. Then the National Assembly, through its Committee on Security, had come for the decentralization of Nigerian police to zonal structure, which each of the zone having budgetary autonomy and operational autonomy. The country is damn too big to have a centralized unitary system of policing. So when you are looking at security, it has different dimensions. Beyond what the service chiefs can do, the police institution and other security agencies, you also look at the question of intelligence gathering. Our intelligence agencies, are they capable Are they well resourced to be able to tackle the question of necessary intelligence required? Then you also look at the fastness.
So are you asking the executive this question?
These questions have been asked.
You had the opportunity
we have a committee. I'm telling you that we have a committee that has passed this resolution, and that's why when the incident occurred in Niger more recently, what we just need to do as a Senate is to refer to some of the components of these earlier resolutions. And in my experience in the Senate in the past, I mean, more than about 2 months after 1.5 years, I think we have discussed the issue of security more than 12 times and passed these resolutions. So the question of police, for instance, will require a constitutional amendment. As I am now a member of the Constitutional Review Committee, there's already the bill before the Constitutional Review Committee, which we believe by the time this comes into being, but you cannot have problem of security being resolved without
how many more lives
to do
will be lost before that bill becomes law?
Of course, it's not my prerogative as Ajibola Basiru to determine when the bill will be passed. Even after the bill is passed, we cannot close our eyes to the fact that it does not erase that there will be problem of loss of life and property. It will be minimized. There's no society that there's no incidence of a loss of life and property. Your job as a government is to minimize, detect, and of course apprehend those that are responsible.
But there's no sense of urgency in the
today I'm just coming
Senate.
from a meeting of the Constitutional Review Committee, so I don't understand. Even today, one of the things we engaged in was the Traditional Rulers Council came around with their own proposition on how they will be given role in the area of security and settlement of dispute as of today. So I don't know what is meant, but there's no sense of urgency.
The reason I belabor the point is because it is the strong belief that the 9th Assembly is a rubber stamp that has sacrificed its legislative independence on the altar of myopic political interests.
I don't know that anybody can decide to speak any big English of myopic interest. What is the interest of a legislator? We're elected by the people. We're not just individuals. We are responsible to those that have elected us. In the period that we have been at the National Assembly, we have passed laws that promote good governance and economic development of our country. The 9th Senate promised to reverse the ugly trend of having staccato arrangement in terms of our budgetary position. We reverse it to January-December budget cycle. Or if people's perception or some individual who also have possibly a myopic understanding of the work of the legislator is that we should be going to be shouting to throw chairs. Unfortunately, you can't even throw chairs in the National Assembly again because our chairs are firm, solidly on ground. Our job is to make law for good government of the country, and we have been doing that. Our job is not to serve as opposition. In any event, Nigerian people, in their wisdom, they voted for an executive, formed a political party, and voted for majority of National Assembly.
But the job of the National Assembly is also to uphold the time-tested principle of checks and balances.
What are the
so where is the scrutiny when you approve, without much scrutiny rather, the proposal for this government to borrow 850 billion naira external borrowing to fund infrastructure?
I don't know what you mean by with more scrutiny.
It is on record that it was granted an accelerated hearing.
It was not.
The same can be said of the $22.7 billion.
What was done? I made this clarification. You can
loan request.
You can go back to the past tape interview I've had on TVC and some other television station. The news about accelerated hearing is a lie. What happened that time was that because of COVID-19, the approval had been granted in the previous year to source for loan. Well, it was said that if these loans were sourced from external borrowing, because of the challenge of the price of crude oil and of course the fluctuation of the exchange rate, it is better to source the already approved loan locally rather than go to the international loan market to be able to do so. Then on the question of the other approved loan, we have a committee of the Senate and House of Rep on external borrowing and local borrowing. There is no loan that have been approved without proper scrutiny, without proper interface with all the agencies, and without ascertaining what the projects are all about. In fact, the mantra of the National Assembly under our present leadership is that every loan must be attached to a capital project. So that's why when you see any loan request that is not based on attaching to any capital project, not explained, it has not been approved. There was a proposal to get loan for the state in the wake of the COVID-19. It was turned down by the committee. It did not even get to the plenary. But of course, when you see people who are the idea of governance and the idea of checks and balances is having acrimonious relationship, the National Assembly have disappointed them. But when it comes to upholding the position which require somebody to be a legal practitioner, it was stepped down by the Senate. In other places, it was said that members of political party ought not to be resident electoral commissioners. Such kind of appointments were also stepped down by the Senate. Unfortunately, people will not look at those instances, but they were looking for us to just be raising issues.
But of course, Nigerians will need to look at it holistically. We'll find out how much time you indeed spend and how much scrutiny that loan request was subjected to. But that will be after the break.
Loan request is not done at the plenary. It was done at committee stage.
We must take a break now. After the break, we'll talk more about the Senate's scrutiny of loan requests and, of course, other resolutions brought by the executive before the Senate. Stay with Fireworks. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks on TVC News. Today, we're looking at the character of this current National Assembly with a specific focus on the Senate, particularly as we relate it to its relationship with the executive, set against the backdrop of recent events. My guest is the Senate spokesman, Senator Ajibola Basiru. Thank you for your time so far.
You're welcome.
So you were going to educate me on what it takes for a loan request to be approved before it even gets to the plenary level. So go ahead.
Not even only loan requests. Every request by the president will have to go. Well, let me give typically how it happens. The president sends a request by letter to the president of the Senate, which will be read at the plenary. When it is read, typically, unless it's absolutely urgent, it's not even considered that day. It's just for hearing of the senators. Then the other day, the Rules and Business Committee will now list it on some other day, which may be a day after, or a week, or a month, depending on the subject matter. Then when this is done, it will now be referred to the appropriate committee. We have 64 committees in the Senate. It could be to a single committee or a combination of a committee. Then it's after those committees, typically given 2 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on the severity and urgency, they will now come back and present the report. The report will first be laid before the Senate. Then another day will be appointed for consideration of the report. The purpose of laying the report is to give senators opportunity of looking through it and then be able to participate in a debate about it. That's typically the procedure. And for all the loan requests that have been brought by the president, those are granted and those not granted, they are follow the due process in that regard. In fact, it will also involve the relevant committee to travel and see the site of the proposed project, because the position of the next Senate is that we are only going to allow borrowing for specific projects that works in terms of elevating the economic and the circumstance of the country, tied to specific infrastructure. So when typically you just see at the Senate a report being presented and the decision being taken on it, it is not just that scintilla temporal of that that's involved in that decision making. Even
there had been processes involved.
There will be engagement of the Minister of Finance, the Debt Management Office, civil society organization, and some other concerned. And of course, senators are also interested to ensure that those projects are beneficial to the community and they are evenly spread across constituency. So it's not just that you can't just bring a loan request and it will be read and will be approved. That's
I'd really like to let it rest at that point, but you know, the loan request of the $22.7 billion that was also considered by the Senate experienced some opposition. This was not too long ago, during which the Senate President now called for an executive session. Why did the Senate President need to call for an executive session if it was satisfactory to all concerned in the Senate?
The question
this is just one. I'm coming to another.
The question you should have asked is, eventually, when at the plenary, was it not accepted by majority of the senators? So that is the crucial one. What transpired at the executive session, I'm not. So
minority will have their say and majority will have their way.
If you say so. But what happened at the executive session is not what Why it is a session is that it's part of what I swore to oath of confidentiality and secrecy, like every other senator.
So
if it is matter
at the committee level too that you're talking about,
what matter at the end of the day is decision of the majority in a democracy.
So at the committee level that you also talk about, there may have been opposition or opposing voices to the loan request sailing through.
That's what democracy is all about.
I'd like to ask if your easy acquiescence to what the executive presents is the reason the president is more satisfied with its relationship with the National Assembly under this 9th Assembly as against what obtained in the 8th Assembly. And the president said recently that he acknowledged that he didn't have a particularly good relationship with the National Assembly under former Senate President Bukola Samuel Wemimo and former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. But he acknowledged the seamless working relationship under this 9th Assembly. So I ask again, and in line with what Nigerians are saying, that is this National Assembly a rubber stamp tied to the apron strings of the executive?
I don't know what you mean by that. I know that beyond our work in the National Assembly, we don't have any special arrangement with the president, and we look with eagle eye whatever proposal had been brought. But the question, I don't want to go into what transpired in the 8th Assembly. I was not there. But as a Nigerian, you ask yourself, there was supposed to be 4 budget sessions. Were those budgets passed as I went due? Can you make a prediction as to the financial year of Nigeria during the 8th Assembly? The answer, of course, is no. And what that does is that in a society that looks on to the public sector to drive the economy, that does not augur well for development and economic productivity of our people. In the past 2 years, we have reversed that trend. And we reverse that trend not in the interest of President Buhari or anybody, but in the interest of all Nigerians. We now have a predictable budget cycle. We have also worked on our VAT law, the Finance Act, to be able to ensure that we insulate the vulnerable from further tax. If you don't have a turnover of 25 billion, you are not amenable to further tax. We have also insulated the low-income earner from even personal income tax. These are very viable intervention by the National Assembly. But for those that want to play policy of 2023 with the Nigerian Senate, we're happy that we have disappointed them. We are for Nigerian people, and our mantra, our legislative agenda is a National Assembly that works for Nigerians. And there are indications. We have amended law that are bringing streams of income. At the committee level, we were able to work with the NNPC to reduce the cost of production of crude oil, particularly with the challenge of COVID-19, to ensure that the margin, notwithstanding a drop in the cost of oil, will not affect. So these are verifiable that we have done. But if you want Senator Ahmad Lawal or Senator Basiru to be shouting on the rooftop against the president in order to get accolade from the opposition, we are sorry, we have disappointed them. Our own is to look objectively at what even enhance us as legislative body beyond the constituents that have appointed us. And you can see the confidence of the Senate president when he said that this is for the Nigerian in our constituencies to judge us when we present ourselves, and if we present ourselves for election in 2023, have we done what is right, what is just, and what promotes good governance, and reject us at the poll if we have not done so. So our commitment is to our constituents, not to elitist criticism who believe that governance is about squabbles, is about acrimony. That is not about it. Checks and balances itself is even to ensure that you have the separation of power in the context of rule of law.
And just one more question before we wrap up. I'm glad you mentioned 2023 only moments ago. I'd like you to speak to the views expressed by Nigerians. Again, that the decision to launch a probe into the finances of one of the leaders, national leaders of the All Progressives Congress, is tantamount to beating the drums of war. What are your thoughts on this?
I heard what the Attorney General Commissioner for Justice said. He said that he's not probing anybody contrary to a report. But then, if it is the person I have in mind, I have implicit confidence that nothing will come out of the probe, because it's like they will just be sounding like broken record. Of course, as a senator from the part of the country that I come from, and of course, based on my pedigree, at any point in time, you know, and comes up for that particular national leader when it comes to presidency of Nigeria.
Does this probe have anything to do with 2023?
No,
Does it have anything to do with 2023?
I've served as Attorney General in the state before. The Chief Law Officer of Nigeria, Abubakar Malami, has come forward that is not doing any probe.
But the EFCC...
EFCC has not come. A letter that was written in the past has been shown. I think it is still a moot question, hypothetical. It may even be brought up by some elements who have no relationship with the federal government. So we wait to see it, but we have implicit confidence that at appropriate time, the right person to govern the country will emerge in 2023.
But you'd rather not say whether the probe has anything to do with 2023?
I would not say so. 2023 is still far, very, very far.
All right, we'll accept your position. We thank you very much for this session of Fireworks today. Senate spokesman and Chairman Media and Publicity, Senate, Nigerian Senate, Senator Ajibola Basiru. Thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure
on the
being
program.
Here.
Yes. And that's it on today's edition of the program. Thank you for watching. We urge you to join us again same time next week as we bring you another edition. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.